After making some tough decisions, the Seattle Seahawks have released their initial 53-man roster. Welcome back to another episode of the Seattle Sports Show, where we love Seattle pro sports. I'm your host, Mikey, and today we are talking about the initial 2024 53-man roster for your Seattle Seahawks. Okay, and yeah, like I said, the Seahawks, they were going to have some tough decisions to make at quite a few positions this year. And when we go over the list, you'll see that, yeah, it was tough. There's some players who I think have potential that end up not making this roster. Then there's a lot of other things that weren't surprises. So let's talk about all of it. I'm going to pull up the full 53-man roster if you're watching on YouTube, so you can see all the names on screen. They don't have it like, you know, really easily read, like in the order of what we expect things to be, but at least we can take a look at them. I mean, at the most important position in sports, we have Geno Smith and Sam Howell being the only two quarterbacks that make this roster. And we will go over, we'll run through who actually made the roster first before we talk about surprise players who didn't make the roster, and also you know, some players that are going to have to start the season on the PUP or reserve. All right, now running backs. This one really surprised me. We are only keeping 3 running backs. We keep Kenneth Walker III, no surprise. Zach Charbonnet, so no surprise, and Kenny McIntosh, no surprise. The surprise to me again is that we only kept the 3. I thought it was highly likely we were going to be keeping 4 running backs, but we stick with 3. Now, at the wide receiver position, again, there was a lot of tough competition at this one, and I basically had 5 players locked in my mind, and then it was just going to see who do they decide to keep at this 6th one. And the no surprises: DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jake Bobo, and Laviska Shenault Jr. all make the roster. And then that final 6th receiver that made the roster, Derek Young, which I think is a great choice. I mean, out of the choices that we had, I think they were all going to be good choices because they all bring something to the table. Yeah. I'm excited for this group. A lot of talent in here. Having Laviska Shenault, Derek Young, having players that are going to be good in the return game, having players that can be good in special teams, I think is going to pay a lot of dividends in the long run. You know, especially with this new kickoff rule that we have. Now, here's another one that surprised me. Tight ends, we kept 4. All right, we keep Noah Fant, Pharaoh Brown, Brady Russell, and AJ Barner. I know a lot of you Husky fans were hoping that Jack Westover was going to make the team, but you know, Brady Russell really showed some stuff throughout the preseason that you can't deny, and he makes the roster here. Now, offensive line, we keep Charles Cross, Laken Tomlinson, Connor Williams, Anthony Bradford, George Fant, Olu Oluwatimi, Christian Haynes, Jalen Sundell, Satawa Lomea, Michael Jarrell, and Stone Forsyth. So, wow, our late round picks, Satawa Lomea and Michael Jarrell, make the roster. I mean, especially Michael Jarrell, right? Or Jarrell, however you say that. For him, again, not only did I not know who he was at the draft, nobody knew. You know, like the people that I follow that, you know, that's their livelihood is to scout players, watch players, know who the scouts of teams are looking at. They didn't know who Michael Jarrett was, and not only was he drafted, he makes the roster, so that is awesome. Laken Tomlinson, to me, seems like he's going to be a veteran leader on this team, which is going to be very much needed when you are trying to, improve an offensive line that has had a lot of struggles. I think they're keeping him around to be that veteran voice in the room, and the veteran voice on the line that can, have that ability to communicate up and down the line and keep everything going. Now, our defensive line, we got 6 of them: Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, Jonathan Hakens, Byron Murphy II, Mike Morris, Miles Adams. Again, here I didn't see any big surprises. A potential for a really strong group this year. I'm excited to see how this group comes together this season and under the coaching of Mike McDonald. I think this is going to be really fun. Outside linebacker. Now, again, remember, this is the 53-man roster. Okay? Uchenna Nwosu, Draymond Jones, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, Trevis Gibson. The first one we got to talk about there is Uchenna Nwosu. Now, that is very, very great to see him on the initial 53-man roster, because they could have started him out on the physically unable to perform list or injured reserve, and in that case he would have had to miss the first 4 games of the season. But seeing him make the initial 53-man roster without being designated on the reserve list, that tells us that the injuries that he suffered is not that serious, and he should be back hopefully sooner rather than later. I mean, I won't be surprised if he misses the first 2 games still, but if you can get him back sooner, then you do. And it sounds like they are going to be able to based on the roster move. At inside linebacker, Tyrell Dotson, Jerome Baker, Tyrese Knight, and Drake Thomas. Now, Tyrell Dotson, Jerome Baker, Tyrese Knight should be very obvious. I mean, these were 2, Dotson and Baker being 2 free agents that they signed to decent money, one-year deal for each of them to bring in. I mean, they were going to make the roster because there's just not a lot of competition at the position in the first place. But our rookie we drafted this year, Tyrese Knight, makes the team as well. And again, he's a player that I'm going to be excited to watch be developed by Mike McDonald. Drake Thomas, I got to say, I don't know too much about him, but at least we got a player, a body there for depth. Uh, Cornerback. This was another one that kind of surprised me, just based on the number of corners we kept. Just keeping 5. We keep Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Trey Brown, Nehemiah Pritchett, and D. Williams. So our draft pick, 6th round draft pick, DJ James, did not make the roster. I mean, Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Trey Brown. I thought, those are all locks, right? Nehemiah Pritchett, yeah, he was a 5th round pick by us, but very underrated, I think, in general. So, I think, yeah, he was going to make the team. Now D Williams. I mean, obviously we traded Mike Jackson, but Williams making the team, that's pretty amazing right there. An undrafted free agent corner making the team over a lot of potential players that made that could have made this team. I mean, again, there was another corner, DJ James, that we drafted in the draft, that this undrafted rookie made the team over. At safety, Julian Love, Rayshawn Jenkins, Kevon Wallace, and Kobe Bryant. All, no surprises there to make the team. Now, again, surprise maybe that someone else didn't make the team, but we'll go over that in just a moment. And then our kicker, Jason Myers, punter, Michael Dixon, long snapper, Chris Stahl. None of that a surprise. Overall, I like this. I like this roster. Again, there was a couple of surprises in here for me. Again, keeping 4 tight ends, keeping the number of offensive linemen and defensive tackles. But again, maybe Mike McDonald's going to need that many for how much he likes to move the defensive linemen around. Maybe you need that extra defensive lineman just to, help with the rotation and keeping players fresh. It should be noted, it is interesting, instead of being lumped in with the defensive lineman, and being considered defensive end, they are putting, they list it here as outside linebacker. We also know that in Pete Carroll's system, in Mike McDonald's system, you can call these edge players as well. So Uchenna Nwosu being edge, they are now putting Draymond Jones over in that. They designated him that as well as outside linebacker, with the rest of them, Nwosu, Mafe, Derek Hall, and Gibson. So, again, I think that just goes to show that they really are going to be putting Draymond Jones out there on the edge, probably more often than not. And I think that's going to be a really good move for the Seahawks. And I think he's going to do, wonders in that position. And we will finally be happy with that move. Okay, let's kind of go through here though, and I kind of want to look at some of the players who were waived, and kind of surprised me. Or we can even talk about some that that we're kind of happy are gone as well. Now, Michael Barrett, Nelson Caesar, who else was there? I thought those. Oh, Jamie Sheriff looks great in preseason, right? Those are all uh, players I thought were fighting for a chance to make this roster, and didn't quite make it. It looks like, obviously, but you know, again, is it because they are confident in the ones they have? I sure hope so. Again, it's still just the linebacker position in general. It has me worried at this point. But again, we will see. Maybe when we get in some live game action, and not preseason games, so like when we get into the some real game action, maybe we will see that Mike McDonald's way of using the linebackers is just gonna unlock all their potential, and that they'll be just fine. We will see. But again, it did surprise me that Michael Bear didn't make the team, being somebody that they just traded for, and had familiar with this system already. And again, Jamie Sheriff playing as well as he did, that did surprise me as well. Now, we didn't mention linebacker John Radigan. Doesn't surprise me, especially with the the salary that he was getting. That I haven't looked up at all the moves today, but and where they're sitting now, but I am assuming that the John Radigan move is going to save them some cap space. Yeah, I don't know if over the cap is going to have all the updated cap spaces for the teams after the cuts today, but I assume that's one of the reasons. I mean, one, he doesn't have a lot of experience as a starter, anyways. But I assume that they were willing to, like, even though he's been in the organization for a few years, they figure they can let him go and save some money. Okay, let's talk about the wide receivers. D. Eskridge, Cody White, Aesop Winston Jr. Let's see here. Those are the ones I think are the ones to talk about, especially Aesop Winston Jr. Not making on there. He played so well in preseason. I thought there was a good chance he was making it, but again, they were not going to go with 7 receivers, but at that 6th spot was really going to be tough. Like I said, Derek Young is still a great choice, so I'm not going to fault him for that. But Aesop played really well. Let's see here. Ty Okada's safety. That kind of surprised me as well, that he was, cut. He was another one that I thought could be right there on the cusp. But they must be. Again, you've heard me say the last couple of years, I think Kobe Bryant can be a safety. They keep him on the team, and again, still they have him designated as a safety, so they must be confident that yes, he can and will play safety. Here's the big one that really surprised me as well. The running back George Halani. My goodness, playing so well. And again, just the fact that they only kept 3 running backs. I mean, in the past, we would often see the Seahawks carry 4 running backs, but we're only keeping 3. And I thought we could maybe only maybe if you took one tight end out and you put the running back in, I thought that would have been the way that would have went. I would have thought we kept 3 tight ends and 4 running backs, but it's the opposite. And George Alani really, really played well. I'm sure they're going to try to stash him on the practice squad tomorrow when everybody is allowed to make their practice squads, and they're just going to hope that nobody tries to claim him because he played really well. Now, Artie Burns getting cut here and being quote unquote terminated section, that one really surprised me. I thought he was one that I thought he played well enough that he was definitely going to make this team. Again, they only keep 5 corners this year, but I thought he was definitely going to make the team. But again, D. Williams, undrafted rookie, making the team over quite a few people that are pretty good. PJ Walker, I've always been a fan of him, so bummer that he's gone, but again, not a surprise to me, because the Seahawks are just rarely going to carry 3 quarterbacks, and now this year with they changed the rule back that the 3rd quarterback, the emergency quarterback, has to be on the 53-man roster. That just kind of, last year it was, you could have them on the practice squad and then elevate them if you needed to. Well, now they changed the rule back this year where they have to be on the 53-man roster and take a roster spot up. They probably didn't want to do that, and PJ Walker gets cut. Again, tight end Jack Westover, that kind of again just surprised me just because of his familiarity with Ryan Grubb. And then let's talk about our reserve and physically unable to perform players. Abraham Lucas. That means he will definitely be missing at least the first 4 games of the season, and that is a big bummer. I mean, he's so, when healthy, is so good, and that would be such a big boost to our offensive line if he would have been healthy and been able to start this season. But that's not the case. So again, looking like it was a good idea that they went out and signed George Fant this season and brought him back. And I'm just real bummed. That's I think he's, when healthy, he's one of the best right tackles out there right now, and or he was on his way to becoming that, is what I should say. I don't know if he really is already, but he's on his way to becoming that. But now with this knee problem that he's been dealing with, and that not only did Pete never really give us any sort of clarification of exactly what is going on, neither has Mike McDonald. So we're just sitting here in the dark as fans, wondering how serious is it? When is he going to be back? Is this ever going to be fully, healed, and we'll see the potential that he has come to life and realization, and be able to be in there 16 games a season? I don't know. I'm worried. Safety Jarek Reed, he is on this list as well, and I can definitely see him in after 4 weeks coming back in here and definitely replacing one of the safeties that we have on here, Kobe Bryant or Kayvon Wallace. And then, man, another one that you just kind of hope that they're gonna be able to keep their body physically together and start getting things figured out here. Our nose tackle, Cam Young, you kind of want that uh you want that big body in there, uh and he'd be great to have a in for the rotation for Mike McDonald on that defensive line. But here we are, having to start out on the reserve list and miss at least the first 4 games of the season. But yeah, there you go. There's a look at our initial 53-man roster. I this is not going to be the roster that we end the season with. I don't think this is even going to be the roster that we start the season with. We still got, I guess it's a little less than 2 weeks now, but we still got time between now and when the season starts. I will not be surprised if more moves get made before the season starts to fill needs, to pick up players that other teams are dropping that you've been having an eye on, that sort of thing. I mean, we already know just within the last week the Seahawks have made 4 different trades, and I don't think it's done yet. I believe one of the quotes Mike McDonald had when he was hired was he was talking about he's going to be chasing the edges, right? And I think that's what they're going to be doing here. The next week is, going through and looking at all the players that they scouted, seeing which teams dropped who, and seeing if they can go in there and claim those players. And I still wouldn't be surprised if there's trade possibilities of trades before the season starts still. Again, because they do have some cap space with some of the other moves that they made this last week with trades and getting or trading Daryl Taylor. That saved you some money. Again, I assume cutting Radigan saved you a decent amount of money. So they should have a decent amount of cap space right now. Maybe there's somebody out there that they're eyeing in a trade, or you never know, because I still think there's spots on this roster that could be improved. Obviously, as I said, linebacker, inside linebacker especially, could, in my opinion, still be improved. We don't know, again, with the whole deal that Abraham Lucas is dealing with is scary. So maybe there's still some ideas for offensive linemen out there that they could be going after. Yeah, and then you just never know. I know this roster, though. Looking at this roster, looking at the potential starters that we're going to be having for this, I'm looking at this roster and saying this should be a good team. Again, just based on talent alone, this team should be a good team. Just like the last couple seasons, I do not expect this team to be below 500. I don't expect them to go. I would not bet the under on this team. Again, Vegas having them at 7.5. I'm not gonna. I would say that if the Seahawks only win 7 games with this roster, then something went really wrong, and I would probably at this point guess like if something is going wrong enough where we only win 7 games with this roster, just look at our coaching staff. First time head coach, first time coordinator at the NFL level, on offense. Again, same thing. Defense. It just, you know, a lot of coaches doing this for the first time at this level. So a lot of things could go wrong with that. But again, I do have confidence in this coaching staff, so I don't think it will. But just, you know, in my opinion, if it did get that bad, that's probably where I would expect that's where the hiccups were coming from, was from, you know, the coaching staff, because all the talent is there. You know, I definitely would take this roster over a lot of other rosters in the NFL, and I think this team has potential to make playoffs. I'm not going to give my final prediction yet. I will be doing that soon. You know, after I'm really going to evaluate our roster, evaluate the opponents that we're going up against. But I'll tell you right now, I expect this team to be, you know, they should be at least on par with what they've been with the last couple of years. All right, but there you go. I mean, there's our 53-man roster. Let me know, what do you think of it? Was there any surprises to you? Is there any mistakes that you think they made? Again, at this point, because we have a brand new coach and we still really don't know how he's going to utilize all these players, it's hard for me to say that there was a mistake in any of this. Again, there's a lot of players that I thought were great throughout this preseason period and tryout period that I'm surprised didn't make this team, and I think had all the talent to make this team. But again, until we see it in action, we don't really know exactly how Mike McDonald is going to utilize everybody, and you know, maybe these really are all the best players that are going to fit what he wants to do and what Ryan Grubb wants to do offensively. All right. But let me know, in your opinion, is this a good roster? Did they make the right moves? Is there anybody that got cut that you were really wanting to see make this roster? Let me know. All right. And yeah, there you go. That's going to be this episode. Again, we'll do a prediction episode sometime in the very near future. Yeah, until next time, thanks for listening to the Seattle Sports Show, where we watch legends awaken. So take cover, because with the Sea of Sound, you will see us rise to reign supreme and win forever.